I am about to embark on a new sewing adventure, and this one is because I am in the process of moving and I realized that I have way too much of that white fabric that I made to make the blouse for the 1890s ensemble I just made. And I'm about to tackle something that I have never done before, which is pattern drafting from actual historical patterns, which I'm gonna link in the doobly-doo, as it were. And let's see if I can get this done before I move. The pattern I have here is, if you click in the link below, from Manual of Needlework and Cutting Out on page 266. It was actually quite easy tracing the pattern onto some packing paper that I found in the basement. And it was pretty simple. I just followed along and traced it down, then cut it out. And by the way, it is really, really fortunate that I am good at geometry. Now, I gotta be completely honest with you, I did not really follow everything according to historical accuracy. I kind of just improv'd a lot of this project, but that was the point. It was just for fun. I cut 4 pieces of the pattern and then chose 2 of them to be the front, and on those 2, I created those folds as you see me pinning here. In addition, I decided to fold over the seams in the front to make that edge for the buttons later on in the project. Now when it came to sewing those folds in the front, I didn't want to think too hard, so I just did a couple stitches in the middle. Now that I have the front pieces done, I think I'm going to now attach the back pieces, and that way, once they're attached together, then I can start making those loops all the way around the actual garment, so that way I can insert the lacing and I can make it adjustable on myself. So that's the plan. My cat decided to show herself as I was pinning the back pieces together. Say hello to baby girl, everyone. Next, I sewed the front and back pieces together, right sides together, with about a 1/4 inch seam allowance on the shoulders and on the sides. And now I'm gonna take a little break because my arms really hurt, and just a little PSA, get your flu shots, kids. Yeah, so I know that I'm quite hilarious because it's been a week, but it wasn't completely wasted. I went to the doctors, I'm all good now, my arms don't hurt, and I can get back to sewing. And I also went to Joann's and I got some lace and ribbons, so we should be good for that. And my next task is to try to figure out the back situation. So I'm just going to sew this up. I know that there's gonna be a bulge in the back because of this curve right here, but I'm just gonna leave it about like a foot out so that way it can actually have like some kind of, I don't know, I'm gonna figure it out. And so I'm just gonna do the back and I'm gonna do the legs next. So here we go. After I sewed the back pieces together with about a 1/4 inch seam allowance, then it was time to work on the legs. As I have just said, I'm starting to think that maybe these audio voiceovers are kind of redundant when I explain what I'm about to do in the video. Come on, Kaylee. But anyway, if you were thinking about following along with me, just know that I made a mistake when it came to the crotch area because the fabric ended up folding over on the wrong side. So I ended up putting the buttons on a side I didn't really prefer as much. So just watch what you're doing, all right? So here's the thing. I was told that, well, at least throughout my research, it was suggested that the baggier it is, the better. And well, I actually feel okay in this. I mean, like, the back isn't bulging up that much, but my next step is either going to be to put on the buttons and then make the loops for the ribbon so I can gather them up, or the other way around. So I just need to make a decision. And the decision that I made was neither, because I decided to work on the legs instead. So on the wrong side of the fabric, I created a loop that would fit the ribbon that I planned to do, except please, 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 please. Yeah, so don't make the same mistake I did, which was not make a hole for the ribbon later on. So, just so you know. Breathe with me, okay? It's okay to make mistakes. The next thing I did was use a safety pin to thread the silk ribbon through, and presto. And of course, once I tried it on myself, I made adjustments because one ended up being shorter than the other, and I made a few adjustments as I went along. After hemming the legs, I marked approximately where I wanted the buttons to go, and then I pinned where I wanted the waist loop to fall onto me. It came out a bit crooked, I'm not gonna lie, and it was really hard to get past those front loops, but I succeeded in the end. So this is where we are now in making the project. So I really like how this like waist tie turned out. It's a little bit lopsided at parts, but I don't really care at this point. It's supposed to go under the dresses anyway. So, and I've made buttonholes all the way down here, except I was a little stupid when I was like sewing up the crotch area, because I made it so that way the buttonholes had to be on this side to go over the buttons that are going to be on this side. So that's my little mistake, but I think I'm going to be fine. So I know that it was going to flip over here eventually, but if I put these two together, it's like they kind of just, it's like they want to be off the shoulder with the cut that's on it, but I don't really want it to be off the shoulder, although it's nice to have that option. I don't really know if I should like put a tie here, because the gathering is going to be kind of pointless, and the same thing goes for in the back, because I don't know, I'm going to have to make a decision, because this dip in the back is making me anxious, and I don't want to be anxious. So I just have to make a quick few executive decisions and go from there. And by the way, one leg ended up being longer than the other, so I had to make a few adjustments there. And to think, I thought that I would be able to finish this in like 2 days, and definitely not. I haven't even thought about placing the lace onto it yet, but all right. Yeah, it's something. I don't care at this point. My next plan of action before anything else is to sew on the buttons, and I know that that's going to take some time. So, here we go. These were the buttons I bought at Joann's, and by the way, nice alliteration. The buttons ended up being sewn about 3.5 inches away from each other just for symmetry, but I left some room at the tops for the neckline because I planned on putting a thread through as well, and I figured that once I tied it off, it would get bunched up, and I wanted to leave a little bit of room there. I found that when I sewed the back, I didn't sew up far enough, so to flatten out that curve more from the pattern, I sewed a couple more inches on the top, and then it became much smoother to make those loops for the ribbon to pull through. And as you're making these loops, especially as thin as I was, you really gotta make sure that you make a smooth path for them, because the seams that I created kinda got in the way as I was pulling the safety pin through. So just be careful about that, because you don't want to rip some seams out and then not bother to stitch it back up later. But hey, it was in the back. No one was gonna see it. So for whatever the reason, it keeps getting stuck right around the sleeve area on both the sleeves. I've tried it. So what I just have to do is take out the stitching and then run it past it and then stitch it over it. And hopefully this won't be too big of a problem. Admit that you made an oopsie, and then thread the ribbon through. Lots of tongue twisters in this video. I decided to finish off the project by adding some lace at the bottom just below where I made that loop so that way it wouldn't interfere with the ribbon. And then I added some on top all the way around. But I ended about an inch or two away from where the buttons met up, so that way when the neckline bunched up together when I tied it off, it would come together and look continuous. So don't worry about that empty spot too much in the front. Did you want to sew for me? I guess not. In all intents and purposes, I'm in my underwear. Scandalous. And thus my 19th century combination was complete. And I know I kind of got a little improv-y with this project, but I actually quite liked it. I was having fun, and that's what matters. I just gotta put my hair in a low ponytail, and you know what I look like? The Little Mermaid to Return to the Sea. See you in my next sewing adventure.